Have you ever thought of how we are going to eat and live in 2050 with the world's population reaching around 10 billion people? Or how could we re-engineer ourselves to a fair and sustainable global food system from there? So now please welcome Naveen Jain, CEO of Viome and a curious entrepreneur who is focused on thoughts and initiatives that will push humanity forward. Tommaso is going to moderate this session right now. So please, Tommaso, take it from here.
Outstanding, Anna. Thank you so much. Naveen, my friend, so good to have you again, to see you again. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely amazing, Tommaso. You know, you wake up in the morning and you just feel so blessed that you're doing God's work.
Yeah, that's amazing. I got to know you 10 years ago, right? You were on stage in another startup event with one of your moonshots, right? And now 10 years into it, I have the pleasure, to share your energy, your passion, right? And your mission with some of the attendees, right? But before we get there, Naveen, let me real quick introduce you for those who haven't actually looked at your bio. Naveen Jain, an entrepreneur and philanthropist, an intensely curious, actually, entrepreneur who focused on ideas that will push humanity forward. And I pause a second because this must sit. As a serial entrepreneur, he previously founded InfoSpace, Intelius, and TalentWise. He's an author of the award-winning book, Moonshots, Creating a World of Abundance. His current moonshot adventures are Viome and Moon Express. In addition, Naveen is the vice chairman of the board of Singularity University, and he is also on the board of the X Prize Foundation. Naveen has been recipient of many honors for his entrepreneurial success. Some of those include Entrepreneur of the Year by Ernst & Young, Most Creative Person by Fast Company, Top 20 Entrepreneurs and Lifetime Achievement Awards for Leadership by Red Herring, and actually that's where we met 10 years ago. Yep. Medal of Honor by Ellis Island, and Top 50 Philanthropist by Town and Country magazine. And Naveen, you know what? I did some research, obviously, in preparation of that, but you should add something else to your biography, which I actually loved, right? Your beautiful family and successful kids, right? Why don't we start with that? Share a few sentences about that, David.
I've got it. I tell you, Tommaso, you just warmed my heart. To me, there is nothing in my life that is more meaningful to me than actually the work that our children are doing. You know, I grew up poor. For me to be able to go out and have that hunger to go out and make a difference in people's life and do well, that actually, how do we create the same value system in the children who grew up in affluent family? I have 3 children now, and all 3 of them are an amazing entrepreneur. And I'm going to start with my daughter because today she launched her new company on women's health. So I want everyone here who is listening to me to go to her new company. Is ev.com, E as in Edward, V as in Victor, V as in Victor, Y as in yellow, .com/ and I'm going to give you the place to go, invite only. No one can buy this. Today she launched a thing, invite only. 500 people get to experience the vaginal health. This is purely for women's health. And she's looking at around vaginal microbiome, looking at all the women's health issues from recurring UTIs to menstrual cycles to menopause, anything in between. And to me, I'm just so proud of her that having graduated from Stanford STEM Fellow, Stanford Mayfield Fellow, first company she does, removing gender bias in hiring for women, and now she's focused on women's health company. Our oldest son, and as good as he is, he's on to his now 3rd unicorn. So he's graduate of Wharton, and then he went on to start the first company, sold it, start the second company that is actually getting rid of all of these deposits. When you rent a place, you have to give first month deposit, last month deposit, security deposit. And he said you can get all that money back with a $5 a month insurance. So you can now have the money that at least you can use for pay the rent or otherwise. He's launching another company on a credit card that allows you to actually pay your rent on a credit card, and the landlord gets the full money, no interchange fee, no credit card fee, no nothing. And you earn the point on that rental that you put on the credit card, and everybody benefits. Now the landlord gets some money earlier, renter now can put in a credit card, they have 30 days to pay for it, and by the way, earned point they can use to buy the house, right? So that's my the oldest son. Our youngest son, Stanford graduate, became a Schwarzman scholar, and just starting a new company at with another serial entrepreneur. So to me, 3 kids done amazingly well. And to me, what makes me proud of them is they actually understood what makes them successful. Because your success will never be defined by how much money you have in the bank. Your success will be defined by how many lives you improved. And every one of them is going out and improving the lives of billions of people around the world. And to me, that's a clear definition of success.
I love it.
When they were growing up, Tommaso, I just want to say that one thing that we actually told them was your self-worth never comes from what you own. Your self-worth comes from what you actually create. So if you're not creating anything and you may own a lot, then you're simply a parasite on humanity. So never be a parasite, right?
That's the reason why I said at the beginning, after I saw one of those videos, you sharing actually the story about your so impressful and successful kids, right? I said, well, I mean, obviously they have it from somewhere and from somebody, right, Naveen? But why don't we jump now into the topic of how food is becoming medicine, right? So that's basically something that you have been tackling and proactively the last years, right? You started Viome. Before we kick off things, why don't you actually say, why did you start Viome, right? What's the mission behind it? What's the main purpose of Viome?
Yeah, so it is actually Viome, just period.
Viome.
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 So even though it's got, so V as in Victor, IOME, and it's pronounced as Viome, right? Could have been a Viome. V actually stands for life, omics is science, so science of life. But anyways, Viome. And the reason I started was very simple. We looked at, overall, what are the biggest problems facing humanity? Because I have a simple belief, if you can find any way to improve the life of 1 billion people, you can create $100 billion company. But to me, creating $100 billion company is a byproduct of improving the lives of 1 billion people. And I want to stay focused on that, because when you do that, byproduct automatically happens, right? So I started to think about and saying, what are the biggest problems if we could somehow solve, would fundamentally change the trajectory of how humanity is going to live? And to me, there is nothing, despite the fact we are living in the middle of a pandemic, infectious disease. I believe we as humanity, in fact, have really good grasp on infectious diseases, right? This is once in 100 years. And even though we have had such great tragedy for humanity, but if you look at, even with COVID, the number of deaths that we have every single year, from people dying from heart diseases, people dying from cancer, people dying from diabetes, people dying from Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and all depression, they're committing suicide. Those numbers are staggering compared to what COVID has done. And I really feel that if we can somehow, so my idea of Viome was, what if we can prevent and reverse chronic diseases? What if we could understand the human biology at a molecular level to understand what is causing people to have these chronic diseases? We will be able to use the food as a medicine to prevent them. And I'm going to come back to in a second, but here is how you start a moonshot. You have to believe that something, that the questions you are asking are so different what everyone else in the industry is asking. And that's why you're able to solve the problem that has never been solved before. And Tommaso, you are a living example of that, right? People always believe the protein must come from animal product. And you said, why does that have to be that way? Can we actually not get a good protein coming from plants? right? And can we create these alternate proteins which are going to be as good and as nutritious as anyone else? And in our case, our thinking was understanding the human gene expression is going to be the key to solving this problem. Looking at the DNA will never solve the problem. So everyone in the industry was focused on human genes and gut microbiome. And I'm going to come back and tell you why we actually thought that was a wrong approach. Because your DNA never changes when you develop a chronic disease. So I can do your DNA test today, and then you gain 200 pounds, your DNA stays the same. Now you become depressed, your DNA hasn't changed. Now you have diabetes, your DNA hasn't changed. Guess what happens? Your gene expression measured by mRNA is constantly changing. And we thought, what if we could measure mRNA? What if we could measure mRNA not just in the host, which is us, but also of the gut microbiome? Everyone in the industry thought knowing what organisms are in your gut will actually help you understand what diseases you have. And we thought that's a bad idea because it will never work. Because two people can have completely different set of organisms yet have a same disease because they're producing exactly the same thing. Or the same organism could produce completely different thing in your gut and in my gut. So it's really what matters to the human body is what these microbes are producing, not what these microbes are. Body doesn't know you have akkermansia. Body knows, is it producing butyrate or is it producing toxin, right? And that is the key. So we understood that what if we could look at the transcripts or mRNA of your gut microbiome, your saliva oral microbiome, your human host, then we will be able to understand why do people, what is the reason for onset of an autoimmune disease? What's the reason for onset of a cancer? Why the different cancers happen, and can we actually intercept them before it is too late? Can we intercept them before they become cancerous? Can we intercept them at a pre-malignant state so that we actually are able to reverse them using simply the food as a medicine? Because now, this is the key part. What we actually now know that every cancer, the microbiome, whether it is in the saliva or your gut, the microbes are deeply involved in onset and progression of cancer. They're involved in all the mental health disease, using the vagus nerve, the depression, the anxiety, autism. These microbes are involved in neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer, Parkinson's, ALS, MS. They're involved in every skin disease. So when you have an inflammation on the skin, it is not a skin issue. It is an underlying inflammation in your body showing up as acne or eczema. So all the things we call insomnia, obesity, diabetes, heart disease, they are simply the symptoms of chronic inflammation. And if you can reduce the chronic inflammation using food as a medicine, then you can prevent these diseases from happening. So our goal is to do that. And if you come to us too late, we can actually still do the early diagnosis. So just 3 weeks ago, we just got FDA approval to be able to breakthrough device designation for diagnosing throat cancer and oral cancer simply looking at your saliva. And now we are developing the third part, which is if you come to us late, when you have third stage, fourth stage disease, then we can still do a precision vaccine for you. So we currently are working with a large pharmaceuticals company for a vaccine for colorectal cancer, because we actually now understand what is causing that colorectal cancer to start and progress. And a vaccine for an autoimmune disease are exactly that, because these autoimmune diseases happen because these microbes are releasing the peptides that are biomimicking the cell, causing the immune system to attack itself. And so anyway, to me, that is why I get so excited that we are so close, that within a decade, we believe we'll be able to actually get rid of cancer. Having lost my own dad to cancer, to me, it is personal. Want to solve this problem. I don't want anyone else to lose their loved ones to cancer. So we really think, if I were to predict, within a decade, we will solve cancer. Within a decade, we'll have a very good understanding of how to prevent autoimmune diseases, how to prevent metabolic diseases like diabetes, heart diseases, how to prevent mental health. I mean, God knows how many people are dying every day and suffering from depression, especially in COVID. How many people are committing suicide? That can be prevented by us taking the nutrition in your gut can solve that problem.
I mean, congratulations on this so beautiful mission, right? There is a lot to unpack. How would you make the link if we think 10, 15 years down the road, right? A lot will happen in terms of evolution, right? We see that food is going into what we call the next gen of sustainable food. How do you make this link between now knowing and being able to measure the RMNA and the next gen, let's say, wave of proteins? How do you see this link, right?
Yeah. So basically, think about what mRNA does. mRNA tells you what are the peptides, amino acids, and the protein that is going to be produced. And then you're able to look at and saying, in this particular protein is not being produced because the following substrate or enzyme that's missing. And now you can bring those substrate from food. Now, or this particular protein is not being produced enough, we need to now bring in a protein from outside that can actually fill in this nutrient gap. So this is what we do at Viome, Tommaso. So we analyze your saliva very soon, stool and blood, and we tell you this is what's happening in your body. What is your biological age? What is your immune health? What is your cellular health? What is your gut health? What is your mitochondrial health? And then we tell you, based on all the different pathways that we see that are overly active or underactive, you need to eat these foods and why. You need to avoid these foods and why. Here are the nutrients that are missing in your body. You need 22 milligrams of elderberry. You need 18 milligrams of curcumin. You need 79 milligrams of amylase. And we produce those supplements for you on demand with those ingredients with precise doses just for you. There is nothing pre-made. Everything is made for you robotically. Every probiotic, every prebiotic, every digestive enzyme, minerals, vitamin, herbs, food extracts, we put them all together. So to us, all that comes together along with the food. And the beauty that we realized, Tommaso, was there is no such thing as universal healthy food. Mm-hmm. For me, the broccoli and cabbage and Brussels sprouts are bad because my gut microbiome is producing too much sulfide, and sulfide is highly inflammatory, right? So we say avoid that food because sulfate in the broccoli is producing more sulfide, causing more inflammation. Don't eat spinach because your oxalate pathway is not very active. That means spinach is very high in oxalate, and if they're not being digested, it's going to end up in a kidney stone. Or you're eating too much protein, and that protein is not being digested in the upper intestine. It's going to the colon where it is being fermented. And when it gets fermented, it's releasing ammonia, which is highly inflammatory. So now you need a digestive enzyme with the protein or cut down that protein. And that's really how we make a personalized, precise recommendation based on the molecular pathways. And that is the reason why we believe the food is going to be the medicine.
So data level plays here a tremendous role in what you do, right? Because you have quantified specific, I mean, really individually, right? Mm-hmm. How every individuum reacts to what substance, right? So then as of today in your phase today with Viome, you basically customize solution. Are you also thinking in a future perspective to make this as a kind of a centralized platform available also to third parties to connect and say, okay, if a patient or person A has these values, right, then they can also select, for instance, products that you find in a shelf, right? Is this
absolutely
kind of a picture?
Absolutely. And so remember, what we have done is creating a platform which is already over 250,000 people. We have a detailed molecular data for these people, right? So we now are working with all the academia on the research to understand other chronic diseases. So we actually have something called Viome Research Institute, where we fund all the researchers. So if you come to us and say, look, we really want to explore why people have NAFLD, or why people have breast cancer, or we want to look at pancreatic cancer, we actually provide all of the Viome services to you at no cost. So we can understand together the mechanism of action for these diseases and come up with the intervention. And hopefully it can be the food and the food nutrients as a substrate to actually reverse it. If not, can we come up with some type of a precision drug molecule and monoclonal antibody, phages, or vaccine to be able to actually modulate the pathways that causing the onset or progression of a particular disease.
So what are the challenges, the bottlenecks, if you so want? How do we get there to make this picture happen?
Yeah, so I think the biggest bottleneck, Tommaso, is getting enough people to come together. So for example, we now have 250,000 people. To solve this problem, we need about 2 million to 3 million people. Because once we have the data for 2 to 3 million people, we now have enough variety for all the different diseases with all the different reasons why they could be causing it. And the more data we have, the AI becomes more and more precise, and our recommendations with the iteration, reiteration get better and better, and that is what it would take. So if we can work together to get the awareness that if when people sign up for Viome, not only they benefit today, but their data allows the whole humanity to get better. So they're benefiting from everyone that came before them. They're benefiting from that. And while they are contributing, they're contributing to the humanity. So everyone can benefit from all of us. We come together. We don't make money from that. Just want to be very clear. We sell our service today almost at cost. As our cost came down from $1,000 to about $120, we sell them exactly at the price. We started at $995. Now we sell them for $129, and our cost is about $125, right? So we really try, as our costs are coming down, we keep reducing the price. Now to analyze 2 samples, our cost was about $225. We were selling for $199. As volume picked up, guess what happened? Our cost came down to $190. So as our costs come down, we keep reducing our price, and volume makes our costs even go lower, and then we keep reducing the price. So our goal is to really trying to get this in the hands of as many people as possible by getting our costs down so we can pass that thing off to our users.
So there is a lot of brain work involved in this. How do you see, Naveen, the link between the link between what Viome does, the players that are coming up as a next-gen protein players, right? At the center of all this, these students, the academia, right? You mentioned your kids, they are going to, one of these most elite schools, right? So what is here? And now put yourself in the shoes of one of those students, right? What is the opportunity for a student? How can they contribute? What is it how could they contribute towards it, Naveen?
Very simple. Us actually go to Viome Research Institute, viome.com/VRI. So viome.com, viome.com/V as in Victor, RI, Viome Research Institute. And you can literally say, hey, this is what I am trying to do. And we fund you. So we actually give you our services at no cost to you. If you come up with a proposal and say, hey, using this protein, we will be able to solve this particular disease. And we say, let's work together. Let's analyze. Let's understand the pathways. Let's fine tune that protein to be able to fix this disease. And you go out and build the business of that. And now we understand the underlying mechanism of action, so we can go out and help people never having that disease to begin with.
That's an amazing work. And I mean, stepping into the shoes of a student, right? I mean, you are a serial entrepreneur, you have serial entrepreneurs, family members, right? What in your point of view are let's talk about entrepreneurship. What is the challenge within a student, right? That is looking at the world, say, okay, what direction should I take, right? What are things that might support the students actually in do so, right?
Yeah, right, good. Very good question. So first of all, never look at the word what is, Focus on what you want the world to be, because most people always say, well, that's the problem. Forget about it. What do you want? What do you want the world to look like, right? Don't look at the glass being half empty or half full. Focus on, do you want to fill this glass? And if you want to fill this glass, does it really matter it's half empty, or does it matter it's half full? And if you don't want to fill the glass, does it really matter it's half empty or half full, right? And again, know that focus on problems that are going to improve people's lives, because unless you're doing that, you cannot create a long-term sustainable business. And the last thing will be, know that as you go through your life, you're going to have ups and downs. And you have to live your life just like when you are alive. What makes you alive is when you look at your heartbeat. How does the heartbeat goes? It goes up and down and up and down. And when you have these ups and downs, you know you're living a life of a live person. When you want to live a smooth life, you're living a life of a dead person. So any point of time in your life, when you get the urge to be steady and smooth, what you're asking for is to live a life of a person who is already dead. So be alive. Go out and do things. When you tell someone, they say, that's a crazy idea. Because unless people think it's a crazy idea, you're not thinking big enough. So never be afraid to dream big, and know there is no limit to what you can achieve. Don't put these barriers where you see, because your eyes and your brain thinks they are a barrier until you get there. And I still remember when my mom will say, Naveen, you can do anything you want. Sky is the limit. Guess what she did? She put the limit right out there. That sky is the limit, without realizing the sky doesn't exist. Sky is simply a figment of our imagination, and we put these limits to ourselves, thinking that's a sky we can never cross, until someone goes from here to the moon and it never says, hey mom, I just passed the sky. There is no sky. And these limits are self-placed. They are self-inflicted limits that we put on ourselves. So the only limit to what you can achieve is simply driven by your imagination. So imagine a world where illness is optional, and that's the world we can create together.
I love it. So reverse engineer the future, right? Where do you want to go? And then don't put yourself any limits at all. It's a beautiful. Actually, I want to take here one question from the audience. Please, we'll take one question. Feel free to submit one question. And meanwhile, I want to have one last question to allow you, us as a listener and the audience that are here, right? Let bring us to the year 2050. I was about to say, okay, how do I phrase it? Bring us to the year 2050, right? So how do you see humankind eating?
Oh my God!
Right. So what's your big picture there?
So 2050, we are going to be multi-planet society. That means we'll be faring between Earth and Moon and Mars, and we're going to have intergalactic net. We will all be connected. It doesn't matter where we live in. It's like going to Sydney is going to become like going to the moon. So in some sense, we're all going to be connected. I believe by 2050, our human brains are going to be connected to the cloud. That means we're going to have unlimited neocortex that we'll be able to utilize. Today, we use the narrowband modem. For me to communicate my thought, I have to speak, and my speech can only be 300 baud. One day, by 2050, we're going to be connected so that what I am thinking, I'm able to broadcast to everyone without having to be limitation of speaking. We'll be able to upload each other's brain. So we'll be able to take that knowledge. Instead of spending 4 years in a college, you'll be able to upload and subscribe to people's brain. So as they learn something new, you can do that. Our living on the moon will never be about growing the food. It will be about remodifying ourselves to be able to use the radiation and other source of energy to live, and maybe have a protein that can actually be using the local resources on the moon or Mars to be able to create that protein that our body needs. And so 2050 is going to be one amazing hack of a year to live in.
Naveen, I was just thinking, as soon as your API is going better to your brain, okay, so shoot them over, okay, we want to be connected. And with that, I would like to thank you so much, Naveen. I know you are tremendously busy. How can people connect with you? I see here there is this question about actually being connected with Viome. There is a company from Bangalore, India. They have impeccable, what is it here? Nutrition, gluten-free foods, right? How can they connect with you?
Absolutely. Please follow me on LinkedIn, and if you follow me, send me a message on LinkedIn. I reply to all my messages and hope to connect with each one of you.
Love it, love it. Naveen, that's outstanding. You know what?
Thanks.
I was thinking if the two of us would be on stage, like, you know, before the timings of COVID, what would we do, right? We would do for sure a selfie, right? How about we do here a crazy selfie, digital crazy selfie, right?
Let's do that.
I do like this, okay? I turn around, right? Let me turn off actually my camera, because otherwise it looks odd, right? You see the back of but you will still hear my.
Okay.
So 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, smile. Excellent. I'll send you that one, right? So I have it on camera. Here, guys, everybody out there.
Awesome.
Okay, great. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Naveen. Anna, take it from here.
Thank you, Tommaso. Thank you, Anna.